Morning and welcome to Coffee and Card at Home. So we started off our Zoom sessions this week with a new month and we are getting a start on Christmas cards. So we're using the Handmade Wishes bundle, which is this stamp set, which is great actually for gifts as well as for cards, and it uses the Handmade Tag punch that goes with it, and this is the card that we've created this morning. So this is week 1 of our 4-week series, and each week I'll be making another card, and all on Christmas theme. Now we're into September, it's kind of that time that you think, right, we need to get a bit ahead with our Christmas cards. So I'm going to show you how to make this one. So you're going to need a thick basic white card base. This is C6 size, so that's half of an A4 sheet, which is 14.8, and then scored at 10.5, and I've just burnished my fold there. And it's entirely up to you actually whether you want to do it portrait or you could do it landscape. I might do this one landscape so you can see the other one that I did is in a portrait orientation, but it really doesn't make any difference. And the stamp that I'm using is this one, and I've used that to create a background. So I'm using mint macaron, and I'm going to stamp that all over my cards, like I say, to create a background. Now, because it has curved edges, you will be left with a little space, but I will show you what we're going to do with that in a second. So I'm trying to get it so that I overlap the card a little bit, and I'm also trying to make sure that my stamping doesn't leave too big a gap in between. And obviously here you can see my stamp's not quite filled the gap, so I'm going to do that one and just stamp off on the edge there. And then I chose to go with them all in line, but you could put them off centre like you would with kind of a brick bond idea. It's entirely up to you. And if you are using a different stamp, you could use a large background stamp for this, or you might have another stamp that would work well in this kind of idea. It just takes a little bit of patience just to obviously get this done. So by doing it in a landscape position, I managed to get about 3 layers on there. And then you can see that I've ended up with a bit of a gap. So there's a very small heart here that I've decided to use just to fill in that space. And for that I've used real red. And I'm just going to stamp that in my gaps just to fill in that space. So you don't have to be too precise. But wherever I've ended up with a bit of a gap, I'm just using that just to fill it in. You could of course use something completely different. There's a bit of holly in the stamp set as well, so you might want to use that. Entirely up to you, or you could leave it as it is. Right, so next step is we're going to get some of our sentiments stamped, and for this I'm using Light of Navy, Real Red, and the Mint Macaron again, and I'm using the Peace, Love and Joy, where was it called, just there, which are the ones that are open. You could use the ones that are filled in, but these are just like the outline stamps, but they look quite nice actually, used in that way. And I've got a couple of different versions that I'll show you here. This one I have decided to do it so that they just go in order. And you can see as they get smaller they look quite nice. And this one I decided to cut each of them up separately and then just reorganize how I layered them. So it's entirely up to you which way you would prefer. And obviously also up to you which order you'd like your colours to go in. So I'm just going to start with the mint macaron. And I've just got a piece of basic white that I'm just stamping onto for this. So I've got piece. I've done that in mint macaron. I'm going to do my love now in red. I'm just going to try and position that underneath. And then finally joy, which I'm going to do in Night of Navy. Now I've stamped mine quite close together, so I think I am going to leave them on one piece of card together. So if you want to cut them up, then just bear in mind that you'll need to space them a little bit further apart. So I'm just going to bring in my paper trimmer just so that I can trim this down a little bit. There's no exact measurements. I'm just sort of leaving myself kind of 1/2 centimetre to the side of the biggest sentiment. And then same at the bottom here, probably 1/2 centimetre just underneath the lowest sentiment, the joy. And then you've got that. So like I say, no real measurements as such, but just trimming it so it has a little bit of a border all the way around. Then we're going to take a piece of real red card and we're going to use the Handmade Tag punch. So we are going to punch out. I like to be able to use it this way around so I can see what I'm punching. I'm going to punch that out. And then when I assemble my card, these are going to be obviously put together. Now you can see that's ever so slightly bigger than my tag. Sorry, I was trying to think of the word. But I'm okay with that. You could cut it down a little bit smaller if you'd like. You can also choose whether you want your tag to go that way around or that way around. So obviously if you go that way around, you're creating a square shape. If you go that way around, you've got kind of your diamond idea. So on mine, if I were to put it that way around as a square, it fits in perfectly. If I want to go that way around, you can see it looks a little different, but it's entirely up to you how you want to go for it. I think I'm going to go that way around. The other thing that I've got is I've just got a rectangle of mint macaron card, which I'll just show you the measurements for this. So that's 5 centimetres wide by 7 centimetres. And that's just going to go behind my vellum to help my vellum stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to stick that on just with some Tombow. And I can choose where I want it to go really. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with it sort of to one side, but in the middle slightly. And then when you're sticking on your vellum, one thing you just have to remember is that we don't want to see the glue through it. So you have to think a little bit carefully about how you're going to organise that. I have also just noticed that some of the shape hasn't had all of the bits popped out. So I'm just going to use my take your pick tool and just pop those out. So these are ready cut vellum squares, which actually I think are retired now, sadly. They're so beautiful though. But you could create your own if you've got a sort of die that would create this kind of delicate cutout effect, or you could use a doily or anything that you've got to hand We have also got some nice snowflake ones at the moment, which would look nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that over the top. I want to still see some of my green, so I'm just going to put it at a slight angle. Then that will go on there, so I can actually put a bit of glue underneath there, which will help to hold the vellum down, and then that will sit on the top. So first of all, I've got my green now in position. Just going to put a little bit of Tombow down here, but remembering that this is going to be hidden, so it's not going to cause a problem. This is the downside with vellum. Obviously you need to think about how you can attach it without seeing the glue, because the glue will come through. So a bit more glue now on the back of my tag. Then I'm going to position that, like I say, over my vellum, and again that helps to hold the vellum in place as well. And then finally I'm just going to put my sentiment up on dimensionals just to raise it up a little bit. So about 4 should be enough. And then I'm going to position that hopefully centered. There we go. So that then is finished. So just to show you the difference between the two. So this one in our portrait style, and I've cut into my sentiments and arranged them like that. And then this one in a landscape style, where I've turned my tag around as well, and I've left the sentiment not chopped into, and in our landscape style for the background. So you can see they look quite different depending on which orientation you go for. So just a quick recap of everything we've used then. We have used the Handmade Wishes stamp set with the Handmade Tag punch. And then for our card, we've used a thick basic white card base, which is C6 size, a piece of mint macaron, which is 5 by 7 centimeters, a retired vellum doily, and then a piece of real red to punch out our tag from the Handmade Tag punch, and then just a scrap of basic white, which we've used for our sentiment. Inks we've used are mint macaron and real red, and a little bit of Night of Navy as well, just for that extra word in there as well. So that's it really. So if you need any help with anything, please drop me a message, claire@clairescraftsstore.co.uk, or you can contact me via my Facebook page as well, which is Claire's Craft Store. If you do create any of these cards and you want to share them with us all, then you can find my Facebook group, which is called Claire's Creative Collective, and once you've been added, you're welcome to share your cards in there. And hopefully you'll join me again next week to see how we use the same set in some slightly different ways for some more Christmas cards. So have a good week, and I will see you next Monday. Take care. Bye.